Well, hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite written Ralph talking to you straight from our show here, Apple Bites, where we take a bite out of the apple and share it with you. And today we are hanging out with Grant, and we are talking all things geekery. And Grant, why don't we start this off good so we can have this going on in the background while we discuss other things, and you tell the people all the good stuff about what you've been up to.
Yeah, so I put out Beowulf last year. Well, Beowulf is the product of about 3 years of work, and I finally put out the trade paperback last year. And this year we're putting out a sequel slash prequel called Beowulf Grendel's Curse. And the reason why I say it's a sequel slash prequel is it jumps around in time a little bit.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, beyond Beowulf, I also do a horror anthology called Memoirs of the Morbid, and I also have another kind of superhero slash fantasy adjacent comic book called League of Cryptids, which is the idea behind that is cryptids are ancient aliens who are sent here to protect and help Earth develop.
I love the concept. There is theories out there that a lot of these guys are actually aliens.
Right.
I gotta say, like we were talking in the green room, I love the fact that you understand your audience and you keep your funding open as long as you do, because I know a lot of people that wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So what is the rationale for doing the short Kickstarters? I've never really understood that.
Well, the whole rationale behind it is the fact that there's activity in the beginning and there's activity at the end. So you figure that you have the short time period, which means that you have less time being stuck in limbo in the middle. Especially if
But you're missing out on all those backers that you get on those days. Like I don't know, that just doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know. All I can tell you is that's what it is. They're trying to avoid all that time period in the middle where what nothing's happening.
It's
And
it's it's weird because I've heard people say like, oh, shorter Kickstarters make more money, and I've never understood the logic of it. I've never seen anybody. I've never seen anybody provide any evidence of that. And I mean, I can tell you, I've done short Kickstarters, I've done longer Kickstarters.
Mhm.
I make more money doing the longer ones. Um, I don't know. It's one of those things. It feels to me like one of those things that people say, but there's not really any truth to it.
All I can tell you, as far as I can figure out, is that they don't like the stress, especially like when you're not funding and it's taking you for a long time to fund. Because as a creator, that you're stressed the whole time until you fund. Then when you finally fund, you're a little more relaxed, even though you're going to keep pushing for it to make more money. But
Yeah,
I think they don't like that stress when you're not fund and you're waiting for it to fund. And I
yeah,
guess they feel like they're forcing the hand of the people to go up ahead, because the concept is that a lot of people wait to the end to support your project. So if you force those people to come up sooner, then the whole thing will end quicker. At least that's what I can figure out. A lot of it doesn't make any sense to me either. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like the fact that Kickstarter has added that whole thing now, where at the end of your campaign you can let it continue to make money for you. I think
yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, I think that that's cool too. Um, I haven't really had much luck with it yet, but
Hmm.
maybe when people start to learn that that's a feature, you know what I mean?
Maybe because again, you have a lot of the questions you have is the same questions I have. I was actually gonna ask you about the fact that you do this longer campaign, and you just said though that you've done the shorter and the longer. In when you've done both of them, do you find a difference?
Yeah, I mean, the shorter campaigns, I feel like I get more stressed out with the short campaigns, honestly, because I'm like, oh my god, I have to cram so much promoting into a much shorter time. Um, like, I mean, when I do the shorter campaigns, I'm still trying to get the same amount of newsletters out. I'm still trying to get the same number of uh, YouTube shows or podcasts or whatever, but I have way less time to do it in.
Makes sense. Yeah, because you have a finite time period that you've given yourself, because you don't have like you would have an extra 30 days.
Right.
Yeah, which is more time to get things done. I can see where you're coming from, because that gives you time to actually get out there, get network, get the word of mouth out, get people to see this project.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, I was sick. I was sick most of last week, so there was like a solid 3 or 4 days where I just did no promotion whatsoever. And
Right.
if I were doing a 30-day campaign, I would be freaking out about the fact that 3 days went by where I did no promotion. But because I do like a 45-day
Hmm.
campaign, I can take like little breaks like that during the campaign.
Yeah, and that also gives you a moment to relax and a moment to take a breath, and not to have to like cram like how many freaking show appearances in a certain amount of time.
Exactly.
End of Zed is saying hi. Hey, and well,
Hey,
hey Eddie, how you doing? Dude, I gotta say, like, the more I do this for people, because I love helping you guys out and getting the word out there. The more, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. I've seen so many Kickstarters, and I'm sooner or later I'm probably gonna end up doing my own Kickstarter, but none of it has logic.
yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, crowdfunding's only been around for a few years,
Yeah,
and it hasn't had the amount of research that um, other fields have, where we can say 100% for certain this is what makes a Kickstarter work. This is what makes it not work. But yeah, so I agree with you. A lot of it is still a mystery to me. Um, there are little things that feel like uh, they can help or hinder a Kickstarter, but I think a lot of us are still just kind of guessing. Um, but that's kind of the way things are in life, right? I mean, you do the
yeah,
best you can, and you hope that you're successful, but you're not always.
yeah. That's the way it works. And here's one thing that I find that helps a Kickstarter out a lot: the fact that your book is 100% done. That you're just trying to gather funds in order to help out. That this book is going to be printed no matter what. Which means, I find that people will help fund books like that, or put their money into books like that faster, because they know they're going to get something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've definitely had Kickstarters that I backed, and then it's like, oh, 2 or 3 years go by, and you
Yeah.
finally get the book. And that's frustrating. I mean, uh, League of Cryptids took a little bit longer than it usually does, just because of the holidays. But ultimately, I had all the books out within 2 months, maybe 2.5 months of when the campaign ended. So that's still pretty good.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, even and I've done a lot of these Kickstarters, and you're right, like that. There was well, recently, just to like add to what you're saying, I got a Kickstarter, and I was sitting there opening it, going, "What?" That's not a good sign. I could not remember when I did it. I could not remember it, and I was sitting there going, "When did when did it was like really weird to me, because you're like, okay, I got this book, but I couldn't remember at all when I had helped this Kickstarter try to fund.
Oh, so you forgot? You completely forgot that you had backed
That's
this
how long
book?
it had been. And I think it was. I think this one was a couple of years, about 3 years. Yeah, when I finally figured out what it was, I was like, oh, okay. Eddie's saying 13 Kickstarters. Grant is certainly experienced. I did one and it kicked my butt.
Well, you know what my wife was telling me. So she backed a comic book a while ago
Mhm.
that involved a certain comic book creator who's now canceled, and so a lot of the backers are like emailing saying like, "Hey, can I get my money back?" Um, I mean, you can probably guess who I'm talking about, but
Probably.
so that's an interesting situation too, because I mean, it's like, when my wife backed this Kickstarter, she was a big fan of this writer, and now not so much. Um,
Yeah, too much time passed. Things happen.
exactly.
I don't get it. But again, and you're right. I don't feel like people have done much research with Kickstarters, especially what helps, what doesn't help. Because I feel like a lot of it is hoping that it helps.
Yeah.
That you're trying to get word out there, that you're trying to get this done. Like we like to say that when you do the whole sign up to get notified, it helps the project out, and it looks like it does, because the more followers you have, it seems to have a bigger um it puts you in a better place in the algorithm when you first start out. They seem to show it more. I think that's Kickstarter going, well, it looks like there's interest in this, so let's help. Let's put the word out there.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it does feel like people are kind of just you know, throwing stuff against the wall, seeing what sticks. Um, Maybe part of that is that you can't always predict what the general public is going to like or not.
That's true.
People trying to put some type of logic into something that isn't necessarily logical, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes complete sense. That's what we humans do all the freaking time. We're constantly trying to look for logic in the unlogical.
Exactly.
Eddie's asking you, have you tried other crowdfunding platforms, and if so, what's your opinion on them?
So I did um, an Indiegogo early on, and I did not have very much success with that at all. Um, I mean, the fact of the matter is, the other the other crowdfunders, they don't have as many people uh, as Kickstarter does, and they don't have as good of, how do I word this, as good of a system as for sending out emails and
Hmm.
getting people who might be interested in your comic book to go check out your comic book. So my opinion is, if you're not using Kickstarter, you're leaving money on the table.
I gotta say, I constantly get emails from Kickstarter, especially from people I've funded stuff already, where they're telling you, well, they're doing this, people are doing that, this is happening. You only have you have a limited amount of time to help these guys fund. You have a limit because you're on that list, and that actually I feel like that does help out, because one of the problems is that sometimes you'll forget that a Kickstarter is going on, and then you forget to go and help them fund.
Yeah. I don't know. There are people who swear by Indiegogo. Um, I like I said, I tried it once and made little or no money. Um, I I don't know. Somebody would have to convince me that things had changed a lot in order for me to try Indiegogo again.
I gotta say, if I was doing percentages, I personally would be like, I don't think I want to do Indiegogo. I've seen people do well on Indiegogo, but I haven't known people personally that do very well on Indiegogo. So that's not a good percentile there. You know, because I have a lot of friends who have gone on Indiegogo and they haven't done much.
What's the new one, Zoop or something like that?
You got, I think it's called, I think it's Zoop, and you also have Fund My Comic, and there's a couple other out there too. I've heard good things about Fund My Comic.
I mean, again, I mean, if you're not talking to people who are hardcore comic book guys, you're going to have to explain to them what Fund My Comic is.
Yeah.
Which that's just one more hurdle for you. From what I understand, the incentive with Zoop is that they design the book for you and worry about fulfillment and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
I'm assuming they also take a larger chunk.
Makes sense.
I mean, from what I've been on this Zoop website a couple times, and I mean, honestly, they have some really cool books.
They do.
I just backed the posthumous Ed Piskor comic book, which was on. So okay, when I typed zoop.com, it's not coming up. It must be called something else. So I don't know, but
I know exactly which one you're talking about, and I wish I could remember right now. But
it's something that starts with a Z, right?
It is. It's something like Zoop. Let's see. Let's do the classic here. Look up funding platforms.
Oh, it's zoop.gg.
There we go.
So yeah,
right.
Yeah, I just
and he's like Zamufu.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for. I've backed one book on Zoop. I backed Switchblade Shorties, the posthumous Ed Piskor comic book.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, when I went on the. I mean that's another thing. I mean, if you already have a really devoted fan base,
mm-hmm.
It really doesn't matter which crowdfunding platform you go on.
Yeah, they'll follow you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Ed Piskor, you can get people to go check out. And I'm looking here. There's an art book by Bill Sienkiewicz. Obviously, Bill Sienkiewicz has a big enough following that people don't really care if it's on Kickstarter or if it's on Zoop or if it's on Indiegogo.
Yeah, they're actually following him instead of the project. Yeah,
exactly.
But see, that's the funny thing. That's the one thing that is true about all these things is that your following will help you out. If you already have a following, then these sites you will make some good money on them. You know, if you don't have a following, then you still got to do the same thing, which is get a following or get people to fund this book.
Yeah.
Because I've seen anytime somebody has a following, that helps them out completely. Because that following will follow them anywhere.
Exactly. I mean, I have a little bit of a following,
mm-hmm.
but I feel like my following is still a little bit fickle. But who knows? Maybe that'll change as time goes on.
Well, I have found out one thing. If somebody's on Kickstarter, they don't want to go to Indiegogo, and if they don't want to go to Fund My Comic, they want to stay on Kickstarter. Same thing with Indiegogo. Same thing with if they're already there on that platform, they don't want to go to the other platform. So that means that what you end up having to do is like launch the book, and I guess it might help you out because you might build a bigger audience, but at the same time, it's a lot of work. You got to launch it on all the different sites. And then some people get upset when you launch it on Kickstarter first, or when you launch it on Indiegogo first, and then they're like, "Oh, well, I don't want to fund that."
Yeah,
because they get all like territorial. Because I've seen those.
I mean, for me, it's not so much territorial, so much as like, I mean, I knew I wanted to read that Ed Piskor comic book,
right?
And so when it was announced that it was going to be on Zoop, my first thought was, That means I have to create a whole new account,
Yeah, exactly.
set up all that stuff, which makes me sound really lazy. But I mean, it is. I mean, it's the difference of taking like 15 minutes to set up an account versus going on Kickstarter and just.
Yeah, exactly. But see, that's the thought process. The one that you're having right there is the thought process that the audience is having. Because I know people that are outside of the comic system or the outside of the whole or what we do system. And if you try, hey, dude, I got a book. You want to help me out? Or you want to check it out? They're like, I don't want to sign up for all that.
Yeah.
They're outside the system, and they're usually like, well, if you're selling it in person, I'll just buy it off of you. Because you have those people that don't want to be in whatever system we're in.
Right.
And,
Like I said, I'm guilty of it too.
Same here. Dude, after a while, you get tired of having to go to so many different things. I'm like, oh my god, I got to do another one.
Yeah, I haven't backed anything on Fund My Comic Book yet. But you said you've heard good things about that.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about it, and we've had a couple of guests on who've done really well on Fund My Comic.
But I mean, it still feels to me like. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's nice that we have alternatives now, but it still feels to me like, okay, there's not as many people on Fund My Comic, so it feels like even if you do really well on Fund My Comic, I have to wonder, like, wouldn't you have done better if you'd gone on to Kickstarter?
I think I think the same thing, but then I've seen people do Fund My Comic, do really well, and then do Kickstarter and have a tough time trying to fund. Not even trying to like, get people to go and pay. Just trying to fund.
That's so weird to me. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like I said, I've talked to people who say like they do better on Indiegogo, and it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I would assume that anybody who's on Indiegogo also has a Kickstarter account. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
See, that goes back to what I was saying before. Sometimes these guys, they don't want to cross platforms. They're on Indiegogo, they don't want to go to Kickstarter. They're on Kickstarter, they don't want to go to Indiegogo.
Right.
And I've seen those, and I've talked to those people, and then and that kind of thinking never makes sense to me. Sometimes I can understand, like, if you just like, I don't want to do another platform. I can understand that, but I find that sometimes what happens is like they start forming these rivalries. The same rivalries like PlayStation versus Xbox or Yankees versus Mets, and you sit there going, I've never liked that thought process, and it's the same thing where politics is right now. You have to be on my team, and that just everybody loses when you think like that.
It's like it's tribalism to a certain
exactly.
Extent. Yeah.
And then the funniest thing is when you call it out, when you show it to people, they can't see it. I'm like, dude, we should be all helping each other out. We're not competition to each other. We are all doing the same thing. But at the same time, my book and your book are two totally different things. So we should all actually be helping each other out.
So you don't get competitive at all, or you?
I've been doing this side of it too long to get competitive. I don't think, because I've yet to do my Kickstarter, but I have a feeling that even if once I do my Kickstarter, I'm not gonna sit there going, oh, he's doing better than me. I'm like, oh my god, great, you're doing better than me. Then my question is, how did you do better than me? How did you figure something out? And it's the same questions we have here on the show. It's like, what are you doing? How are you making this happen? Are you having trouble? Are you succeeding? What's going on? You're doing this other platform. Why is that working for you? Why do you want to do this other platform? For me, I'm the kind of person that always has questions. And I guess that's one of the reasons why Bit and Apple and the Written Writ works so well, is because as soon as I'm talking to somebody, I start to have like 10,000 questions that pop into my head.
Yeah, I mean that's good. I mean that's definitely the way to be. I'm not gonna lie to you. Since doing this comic book, I've started to see a side of myself that I don't necessarily like, where I'm very, very, very competitive. It's very, very strange to me because I've always been the most non-competitive person on the planet. Like, I remember when I was a little kid and my parents signed me up for Little League. Like, I never cared if we won or lost. Like, I remember as a kid thinking, well, who cares if we win? Like, we're gonna go out for ice cream afterwards, anyways.
That was the fun part. You had
Exactly.
fun playing, and then you had fun eating the ice cream.
But I had fun whether I won or lost. So I didn't.
Exactly.
I was never one of those guys. But it's really weird since starting to do this comic book. I've never been a competitive guy, but oh my god. Like if I'm at a convention or something and I see like the table across from me, the table across from me is like another comic book creator, and somebody comes up to my table and they look through my comic book and they don't buy it, but they go to the other guy's table and they buy it. It makes my blood boil, and it's very weird because a new this is a new emotion for me that I've never really had before.
That's so funny because my first question is, okay, so what are the other guys doing? Is it the same book as mine? Because for me, it starts to make sense. Like if I have a fantasy book and they have a fantasy book,
Yeah.
why do they buy their fantasy book? Because we all know that people have different tastes and stuff. Because I've seen that when I'm in the comic store. Well, they'll pick up a book, they'll look through it and go, no, I don't want that. And then they'll pick up another book and they'll buy that. But then sometimes it makes sense because this is a superhero book and that's a fantasy book.
Right.
And then the same thing when it comes to the genres itself, everything's kind of different. So even if it's all fantasies, certain people like certain types of fantasies, and other people like other types of fantasies. I like dragon fantasies. Well, I like fairy fantasies, or So now the
Yeah.
question is, and I see again, my brain starts to break it all down. It's like, what's going on? Why are they over there? And then there's another good. I would love to ask anybody who like didn't buy this book and bought that book. Why did you buy that book? Why didn't you buy that book? Because I feel like all this stuff, besides being like interesting, it brings into the level of playing field of well, maybe it's not that my book is bad, or maybe it's not that my book whatever. It's just that they were interested in that book and they weren't in this book.
I mean, I think that's the trick to it. You need to view it as, okay, it's not that this person is saying that your book is bad. They're saying it. My taste doesn't align with yours, I guess would be the way of wording it. And that's not a bad way to look at it. But I mean, I think you do still want to look at
Definitely.
your book and see if there are ways that you can improve upon it. I think that's something that's also frustrating for me is when I see people who are more successful than I am, and at least in my head, they're not putting out a very good book. And like I said, it might just be they figured out a niche that I haven't figured out yet.
Yeah, and you got a pretty good you're in a pretty good place by the fact just by the fact that you got Beowulf. It just comes like right off the bat that brings interest in, because you have people who like Beowulf. You have people who like that story,
That's the other thing. I am doing pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there are people out there who aren't doing as well as I am, getting frustrated listening to me talk about this.
Oh, that's definitely, because I get those all the time. When I'm off the show, it's like, oh, dude, man, I wish I had his followers, or dude, I wish I was selling the amount of books he was selling.
There's always somebody, no matter how successful you are, there's always the one guy who's more successful, and there's always people below you.
Exactly.
So you just have to, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who would be thrilled to be in the spot that I am now. And that's something that I need to keep in mind.
I have to say, like, add because your book is already ready to go. I know there's a lot of people that would love to be in your place where you're going to the Kickstarter and the book's already ready to go. Because that's a lot of hard work. You've accomplished something that a lot of people can't get done until they do the Kickstarter, until they have the money from the Kickstarter. Yeah,
that's something that I tell myself too. Is that look at how many people out there say I want to write a book, or I want to make a movie, or I want to make a comic book, whatever their big goal in life is. And look at how many of them sit around talking about doing it and then never do it.
Yeah, a lot. I've met a lot. I've met a lot of people who've talked about projects and those projects have never gone off the ground.
I mean, I get emails all the time from people like, saying like, hey, you've figured out a way to make a comic book. What advice can you give me? And I give them advice, and I'm going to be honest with you, 9 times out of 10, I check in on them like a couple months later, and I'm like, hey, have you put any work into, making your dream come true? And usually the answer is no.
Yeah.
Well, usually they don't come right out and say no. Usually there's some type of excuse.
Yeah.
Or they're waiting for just the right time.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the big advice that I would give. There's never going to be a right time.
No.
Like, there's never going to come a time where you just have like all this free time and all this extra money to get your comic book done. So ultimately, you have to sit down and start working on it, and not only start working on it, but you have to market it. I mean, that's another thing that I think people don't want to hear, which is that everybody is, which is that you have to market the comic book once you're done writing and drawing.
I can definitely tell, Grant, that you've been hustling. You've been working your audience. You've been building your audience. You've been, you can feel it in your project. You can feel it in how you're talking, that you've actually put up the work out there, and that's why you are where you are. And it's funny that you say all this because I'll get all the time, Ralph, I want to be a writer, and what do I do? And I'll come up with the simple answer, which is what the answer is that you write. You got to write. You got to keep writing. You got to write. And then they'll look at you like you're gatekeeping it and like, oh, you're holding some secret back. And I'm like, no, dude, if you're not writing, then you're not perfecting your craft. So you got to be writing even, but it's not the right time, or this project won't get off the ground. I'm like, dude, you keep writing even while you're trying to work on that project to put it where you want to put it, because you don't just stop, because if you stop, then everything just stops.
You're right.
You know this, and that's why it's so funny when you get to people and you talk to them, because they've stopped. They're not moving forward because they have this thing that this is what needs to happen in order for me to move forward.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm doing well now, but I will say, throughout my life, I have a history of starting to work on projects and then never finishing them.
I feel you.
And so, fortunately, I mean, you put a little bit of work, you put a little bit of energy into the comic book, and I don't know why it worked out better this time. Why I didn't give up on it like I have on projects in the past. Maybe I just like kind of matured or whatever. I don't know.
Well, you know how it is. I know you're creative as like I am creative, and I'm constantly working on different things. And my whole thing is I don't like doing the publishing aspect of it because it stops me from creating. And
what do you mean by publishing?
It's a whole other. Go ahead.
What do you mean by publishing? Do you mean like figuring out which printer you're going to go with, like that
yeah,
sort of
all the stuff that comes along with that, because it's a whole other job. And it's funny because it's one of those things where you talk to people and they don't understand that what the dream is has all this other stuff attached. You understand it because you've done it. You know that you got the writing, you got the part where you publish, you got the part where you make sure that people want to buy this stuff. But all that is a bunch of different jobs at the same time. I give you a lot of props because it takes a lot of work to get to where you are right now. And a lot of people can't do that because they can't see the bigger picture. And I myself, I rather keep writing, keep being creative than put effort into trying to get published.
Right.
And self-publishing is an option, and I probably will sooner or later put something out there, but that's a little easier, especially if I'm doing prose. Comic books, on the other hand,
Yeah.
With comic books, you still need to, if you're not an artist and you can't do it yourself, you still need to find an artist. You still need to pay that artist because I know a lot of writers who try to get out of that hole trying to pay the artist. Hey, we'll get on this together. I'm like, nobody's really making money off of comics. Everybody thinks that the comics are this thing where you make millions of dollars on, but no, it's usually a passion project where you're trying to get what you put all this passion into out there. I'm not saying that people don't make money off of comics, but it's not usually, it's not the usual thing that happens.
It's definitely a hustle.
Yeah.
As far as who knows? I mean, maybe one day we'll start making money at it. I mean, not to say that I'm not making money at it, but I'm not making a lot of money. I'm certainly not making enough money to live off of.
Right. You're making enough money so that you can continue to put the passion and put the work out there, which is why we tell people all the time, especially when we have Kickstarters. I go, dude, these people, all they're doing is trying to make the next book. They're trying to put their passion in, make all the projects they're trying to make. And when you're helping them out, you're helping them out because you're helping them put their passion out there.
I mean, it's cool that we live in a day and age where we can do stuff like this. I mean,
definitely.
I mean, when you look at guys like Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, I mean, obviously they got really lucky, but
and they did it when it was even harder.
Exactly. I mean, I remember listening to an interview with Robert Kirkman where he was saying, like, the month that Invincible started making a profit was the month where the banks told him that they were going to foreclose on his house.
Wow.
And who knows? Maybe he's exaggerating just for.
It sounds about right.
But I mean, he said that every month he had a comic book before Invincible too. I think it was called Battle Pope, and he said like every month he made just enough money to pay the artist and to get it printed.
Right.
But he was never making any money on this comic book, and he kept doing it and kept doing it. And I keep thinking to myself, if that was me, I don't know if I would have I don't know if it's stubbornness or willpower or what it is.
Right.
To know, that, 6 months has gone by and I haven't made any money. And they're about to foreclose on my house. I don't know if I would keep doing it.
And it's funny because there's a lot of creators out there right now. That's why I believe the story, because there's a lot of creators out there right now who are at that point. They've been doing this. They've been putting their money into the projects. They're at a point now where they're like, oh my God, I can't keep doing this. And you see a lot of books go to the wayside because a lot of creators stop doing what they're doing because they're not making money in order to continue to do it or just to help themselves live. So I completely believe that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm very thankful to live in a day and age with Kickstarter, and also the fact that printing comic books is something that's maybe not cheaper, but you can do it like at a manageable amount. You know what I mean? Like,
It's
Like you
more
don't have
doable.
to print
Yeah,
like you don't have to print out 100,000 comic books anymore
no,
like you used to have to.
exactly. That's how it used to be, and I can tell you that because when I was trying to make comics in the '90s and the 2000s, you got those quotes because you were looking around to see if you could do it yourself instead of having to be Marvel or DC. And those quotes you got, you would pay up the wazoo, and you had to buy so many books.
Right.
So we're in a much better place, folks. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean it's exciting because I mean people can I mean it's something that people can just do
Hmm.
almost kind of like as a hobby.
Yeah,
Um, and it's exciting because I mean a lot more ideas are getting out there than just what you see at Marvel or DC.
definitely.
And there's nobody. I mean, people forget that when you put stuff on Kickstarter, there's nobody sitting there saying, this is a good idea or this is a bad idea.
Exactly.
You don't have to put your comic book in front of a focus group,
Yeah,
uh, which is
you're just
cool
doing what
because
you want to do.
yeah, that means the ideas can get way weirder,
Hmm.
which I say is a good thing. We should
I
the weirder
completely
the
agree. I completely agree because you hear Marvel and DC and they're like, oh well, we stopped this book from happening, we stopped that book from happening. We didn't like that idea, and you'll hear creators going, well, I had this idea and I pitched it to Marvel and DC and they were like, no. And you sit there going, okay, yeah, because yeah, it makes total sense. And I tell people all the time, you want comic books the way you want it because they're always complaining about Marvel and DC. If you want comic books the way you want it, go check out the indie comic books. You'll find something exactly of what, like you're saying, there in the indie. I know it's hard work to go find it, but you'll find it.
right.
Support the indie guys. You don't see stuff. A lot of the stuff you would never see in the big guys or regular publishing.
I mean, that's kind of what I love about comic books. It's one of the few mediums like that one or two people can make, um, and you don't need millions of dollars or even thousands of dollars to make a comic book. Um, and so I don't know. It feels way more personal than a movie or a TV show that
Yeah.
hundreds of people work on,
Hmm.
and you have investors who want to make sure they get a return on their investment. So they're going to say like, they want you to use ideas that have been done before.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, comic books are just feel way more personal to me.
Yeah, and let's say you're a matter sorcier and you do everything yourself. If I envy the guys who can draw and write and make their own comic book and they don't need a team. But at the same time, that is a lot of work. And Meta's biggest thing that she always says is that she doesn't make enough to even pay herself because she's doing all these hats, she's doing all these jobs. I completely agree with her because that's a lot of jobs that you should be getting paid different monies for.
I mean, if
You
you
know,
start worrying about that,
yeah,
I mean, that's really like if you start saying to yourself, like, okay, it took me 8 hours to do this page, and if I were making $15 an hour, that would mean I need to make at least 120. And then, I mean, if you start doing that, you'll go crazy.
destroy you. Yeah. You just got to do what you got to do and put it out there and see what happens. Yeah, if you're worrying about profits from the get go, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's why I love to see like the creators when they're at the conventions and I sold a couple of comics, and they're really happy about it because that's the thing. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get these books in front of people out there so they can see what we're creating.
Exactly.
And for that, I have to say that we are lucky. We are blessed, folks. Because we have you guys out there supporting us. You may not think so because you may not be buying it, but you're here listening to us. You're here spreading the word. And that's what I always say, folks. All this stuff helps. It doesn't sound like it helps, but if you tell a friend and your friend likes it and your friend buys it, that's a person that would have never seen it because they would have never heard it from us.
Right.
Folks, people, the industry pays millions of dollars for publicity and for commercials and for to get it out there, to get it seen. They pay a lot of money for that. That's why word of mouth is amazing, because we're not paying anything to get it out there.
Right.
Because
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
that's another thing that we're lucky to have,
Mhm.
which is, I mean, I know as much as people complain about social media, and obviously, like, yeah, in a lot of ways, social media sucks. But the truth of the matter is, I mean, if you have what 300, 400 Facebook friends,
Yeah,
every time you post something on Facebook, that's 400 people who are seeing that. Like,
exactly.
I mean, back in the day before Facebook, or social media in general, you would have had to pay a lot of money to get that many eyeballs on your comic book.
Or you have to do a lot of legwork to get to do it, to make it happen yourself. or get a TV commercial.
Right, or a billboard, or
Yep.
even uh, I don't know if you read Wizard magazine back in the day,
Oh, I
but
love Wizard. Oh, it's one of my
I'm
favorite
sure
books.
I'm sure the advertising in that wasn't cheap.
No, not at all. And you always saw something in there: video games, comic books. It was fun. The book alone, the magazine alone was fun. Then the stuff that was in there was even more fun.
Yeah, I don't know how old you are, but I think Wizard debuted in 1992,
I
which
was
would have
there.
meant that I was 12.
I was in my late my late teens. Yeah, yeah.
I was 12 when Wizard first started, and yeah, it was exciting. It made making comic books feel like it was doable. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And especially when you had all the guys coming out in the 90s doing or starting their own companies, to get their books out there. It also it gave you that hope. Hey, I can do it too.
Yeah, I mean, Rob Liefeld looked like a regular guy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he didn't wear a suit. He wore shorts, and a t-shirt.
Yep.
He hung around his friends all day out in California. Like, he had his own little office, but he just, I mean, as a kid, I remember just thinking, like, how freaking exciting would that be to wake up every morning and draw, like like I said, while wearing shorts. Like, you don't even have to get like a suit or anything like that. You just,
Just do
yeah,
what you want. Do what you love. Yeah. Mm,
I mean, that was as much of the fantasy as Spider-Man, or
yeah.
whatever character you were reading. That the idea of getting to be one of the guys who sits around and writes or draws, excuse me, that stuff was so exciting to
The
me. I
dream
mean,
job.
I remember seeing my dad get home from work, like in his cubicle, and he would be all stressed out. He'd
Yeah.
be wearing like uh like a shirt and tie, and I remember thinking to myself, "Oh my god, I want nothing to do with that." Like, it used to scare the crap out of me, the idea of growing up to be that. And um, like I said, when you would read Wizard magazine, it felt doable, right?
You did. It's like, oh, these guys. I know these guys. It made it more human. It made it more personal, because you got to see the industry before. You didn't get to see it. You just saw the comic books come out, and maybe you had other places where you would get to see a little bit of what was going on. Maybe the TV would do a little special about somebody. Maybe you would get like one of those little newspapers that some of the companies used to put out. But the Wizard actually put it in your face. It's the same thing when you had all the gaming magazines. Gaming magazines made it more like, I can make a video game. That's why I loved all those magazines, folks. I hate the fact that they're all gone.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, you hear a rumor where somebody's trying to bring Wizard back, or somebody's trying to bring one of the gaming magazines back, and you're like, ooh.
Well, they're all gone. But
Yeah.
I mean, all those magazines are gone. But you know what replaced it is YouTube.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, amazing that you can go on YouTube and find
Whatever
videos of your favorite artist or your favorite writer, like sitting around talking about. But yeah, I mean, that's exciting.
Oh, definitely. Stuff like this, the podcast. I think that's why people like podcasts so much, is because they get an idea, they get a chance to see inside the things they love, or the things they're interested in, or because before you'd have to go and sit down in the library and trying to figure out how to do the research to figure out what you liked, or do the legwork and be out there and be journalistic and talk to people and figure out what you like. It's a little easier now, dude. We're streaming here. You are where you are, and I'm here where I am, and we're doing all this, and we're not even that close to each other.
Exactly.
But folks, in order to get this done, you have to go and do.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like we're bullshitting you, but no, you have to do. You have to do what you want to do what you love, make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like everybody should have some type of creative outlet, whether
I agree.
it's doing a comic book, whether it's drawing, whether it's playing a music instrument, whether it's writing poetry. Everybody should have some type of creative endeavor that they do besides getting up and going to work every day.
I think that's what pissed me off the most about AI is dude, I don't want my AI to do the poetry and the art and all the beautiful stuff I want to do. I wanted to clean my dishes. I wanted to wash my floors.
Exactly.
I wanted to do the things that I don't want to do. Let me continue to do the things I love to do. I don't need help with my art.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but folks, you're making AI, make the AI do the work. I don't get people. Oh, we're figuring, but you know what it is the companies, they don't want to pay us creatives. So if they can get rid of us, and they don't have to pay us, they can make more profit, which is what it's all about.
Yeah. For sure.
Sad, folks. So why don't you tell the people one more time where they can find you and all that, so they can go pick up your stuff.
So my name is Grant Lankard, and you can find that on any social media. That's a pretty distinct name. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Grant Lankard on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky. What else? Threads. I'm not on Twitter because I hated Twitter. But I hated
Twitter from the beginning. I never liked it, so.
That's how I am. I didn't like Twitter even before freaking Elon Musk bought it.
Dude, yeah.
And it went downhill after he bought it.
Oh, definitely. It was even worse.
So
I don't know. I always found Twitter I am looking at you. I am in the toilet. I'm like, what?
The crazy thing about Twitter is even people that I knew on other social media, they would argue on Twitter and nowhere else. It was
exactly.
And that's not to say that there aren't people who start arguments over stupid stuff on Facebook.
Oh, definitely.
But it just felt like it was so much worse on Twitter.
Oh, they get so angry on Twitter. That's all you see is anger. I gotta say, your stuff here looks really good, by the way, since I have it up.
Oh, thanks. I was just saying, the thing that drove me nuts about Twitter is you would see people on there insulting people's mothers, just hating, on the verge of killing each other, and then you'd look at their profile and it's 90% of the stuff they agree on, but they're threatening to kill this guy over like the 1% of stuff that they don't agree.
Oh, definitely. And they'll argue that 1% to the blue in their face. I'm like, dude, you guys have so much in common. Why are we like stuck on this one little thing? So, folks, go check out Grant. Grant's not lying. It's easy to find him. I know when I was doing research to get him on the show and put his stuff up, it was pretty easy to like put up his name in and just get all the information I needed, which is a good thing.
Yeah, thank you so much for helping me promote.
Anytime, Grant. I love when you're on. We have good conversations. You're more than welcome to come on anytime. Geek out. Tell the people what you're up to.
Yeah, this was nice.
So I know I probably asked you this before, but my brain is like, oh, ask him again. Beowulf. Have you been a fan of Beowulf all your life?
So I've been interested. I don't know if I would say that I'm a fan of it. I've been interested in it my whole life. I think I was like 13 or 14. My parents had one of those Time Life books.
Right.
And that's how I kind of discovered Beowulf. And it was kind of the first book where I realized, like, oh, this is kind of just like a superhero comic book, but from like 1,000 years ago.
Pretty much. The same thing with me. Like I ran into Beowulf because of school. It was one of those books you were supposed to read so we can talk about it. And it's funny now if you want to get into it. That all these books, I look at the banned book list, and I sit there and I go, I read all these books as a kid in school,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, now they're banned. I'm like, what the heck?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, as a kid in school, like I've looked at the list, and most of the times I'll sit there. Like 1984, I was a kid. I was a teenager. Catcher in the Rye. I was a kid. I was a teenager. I Know Where the Caged Bird Sings. Yeah, I can remember all that from that same time period. So it bugs me out now that it's all of a sudden banned. But I always feel that they didn't like the way Generation X ended up being. That I'm not gonna say they're perfect. I'm not gonna say anything, but they're constantly ready to fight. They constantly don't like you telling them what to do. They constantly they have their own mind. And I feel like they went, we can't have this happen again. So now they're trying to control everybody's way of thinking by controlling what they read, what they see, what they talk, what they can talk about. Folks, be your own person. Don't let these people decide for you who you are.
Isn't it crazy that we're still talking about book bannings like in the year 2024? Like how is that possible?
Oh my God. Yeah. Eddie's like, I'm out of here, guys. Great show. Thank you. Happy you enjoyed it, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, I can't believe we're talking book banning. And it's funny because I remember in the 80s, there was talk about book bannings back then. And they were trying to ban certain books, and then you stopped hearing about it for a little while, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe we finally got out of that.
Maybe people have gotten smarter.
That's what I thought. That's what I was hoping. Folks, if anybody doesn't want you to read something, always understand this. If they don't want you to read something, it's because they don't like an idea that's in that book, and they think it's going to corrupt you in one way or another.
Right.
Maybe if you guys think about it that way, you might see what's going on. It's a way to control you.
Words.
Dudes, go be creative. Go have fun. Enjoy your lives. Stop letting people tell you what to do. I have a problem with authority, so maybe I shouldn't be saying it.
Just funny because you seem like such a nice, easygoing guy.
I am, but I don't like being told what to do.
Makes sense.
I hate stupidity, and it gets me into trouble all the time. Speaking of Mata Sorcier, Mata has her beautiful book coming out soon. Sacrimony is amazing. If you guys haven't had a chance to read Sacrimony, you should. I'm constantly arguing with the book because these characters make choices, and you sit there going, "Why? Why did you do?" And folks, her art is amazing. It's beautiful. You really have to go in and check it out. And she's getting better and better and better. I have to say, like, the screen in front of you does not give you justice to how beautiful this is.
Oh, wow,
And
she's got 107 followers. That's cool.
dude, yeah, she finally got over the 100 mark. She was so happy. We can get her to 150, guys, before she starts. She's gonna start in March. I think March. I think it's the first week of March. So get her to 150. Like we like to say, the algorithm is better the more followers you have going in. And sometimes you can even start as a project we love, which is a good thing. So Mata Sorcier, amazing stuff. I love all the stuff that she creates. She's amazing. You're looking for somebody to do a cover for your book, hit Mata up. Great artist.
Oh, I never thought of that.
She'd do great with your Beowulf stuff, all the other stuff. Yeah, it's all. I feel like all of it is down her wheelbarrow. And of course, we won't be the show if we don't talk a little bit about the Blip Blitz, which is happening right now. Game of Tunes is doing the beautiful fight of the blips, and it has been a fun little game. The guys and I have been fighting to see who gets where and what gets who, and some of these have been like upsets. I wasn't expecting Link to win this fight here. I thought that Goliath would beat Link there. Shredder and Snoopy was a tough fight. It almost went down to the wire. And of course, Fred and Belle. That one was a little more predictable. I thought Fred was going to win. As you can see, these are all fun little fights. And we did a whole show on Monday about who our favorites were, who our picks were. And we are probably going to do another one soon if we don't get to the end before he does, because he's already starting the second round, I think. Yeah, round 7 looks like Ned and Darth. With Nathan, then it was Darth? No, we're still on the first round. All right, so folks, we're going to be probably talking about this soon, but look at this tough fight right here. It's Ned Flanders and Darth Vader. I got to say I'm going Darth Vader's way because look at this cute little Darth with the puffy eyes. But at the same time, Ned Flanders looks so goddamn adorable.
Now, are you supposed to vote for who you like better or who you think would win in a fight?
You can do it either way. When we had the conversation on Monday, we went both ways. It was like, oh, who you think is going to win and who you think you like better. Because I know sometimes it's different, but we like to pick our favorite ones and try to get them into the final showdown at the end. And folks, remember, all you got to do is you go to Game of Tunes and you hit the stories, and every day in the stories you'll see the newest round, and then you can vote for who your favorite is. And remember, if you guys were here in the beginning, you could have chose who your winner was, and if you won at the end, what he's going to do is he's going to give you a little something for picking the winner. But right now, it's too late for that. The boat has sailed on that, so just be ready for the next one because he's goddamn going to do this again. As you can see, folks, I am very passionate about these little fights. They're fantastic. It's a lot of fun. And me and the guys like to see it's almost like a sporting event with us. Nerd. Yeah, that's what I tell my sporting friends all the time. We're just different types of nerds. They get pissed off. I am not a nerd, Ralph. I'm like, dude, you know those stats and all those numbers you remember when you're talking about the baseball and the football guys and the basketball guys. That's the same thing as when I'm in D&D and I'm remembering all these numbers.
Exactly.
Oh,
well, especially fantasy football.
Especially fantasy football. It's exactly like D&D. It's all math. And folks, remember, I am still, like we were talking with Grant here, if you guys want to see a published piece from Written Writ Ralph, then go check out We Suck at Comics. Because it's an anthology, and there's a piece from myself in there, a prose with a Shadow Rabbit art piece. Not a Shadow Rabbit clay piece, it's an actual art piece that he did for this piece of mine. So go check out We Suck at Comics. It is a great anthology. It's coloring outside the lines. My story is not what you're expecting. It's all about a Taino god war and a poor girl who's stuck in the middle of all of it. And that's all I'm going to say. If you want, go check out the book. I think that's everything. Anything else on your end, Grant?
Thank you for having me on.
Anytime, bro. You want to come on, you want to hang out, you want to be a guest host, you're more than welcome to. We like how you speak. So, folks, on this show, when it ends, I press the button and this happens. Hey. You know, this weekend I went to Cosmic Con. Had a lot of fun. It was a blast. You should have been there.